Like the War Eagle Bridge, I have to remember that, Carol.
Right. You said what? Your mom drove across it, or your grandma?
And I'll find the book where it says it was the highest, one of the highest railroad bridges in Arizona for a long, long time.
The War Eagle Bridge.
Yeah, because it's on the War Eagle Creek.
Right. I didn't know that's the name of that creek either. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've walked out where the cut is, and that bridge came out and crossed what's now the present road, right? And I walked out to that cut one time around that little mountain down there.
Yeah, the one with the pretty cut in it, the pretty curve all the way through the mountain.
Yeah,
It's pretty, yeah.
it's very cool there.
That's really good.
So yes, it's a lot of railroad items. Oh, and the maps. We do have some old railroad maps, the copies of them.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, we did sell those. We have sold them. I have to see if we have any more. What is left out. A lot of people like those.
And there's Peck Canyon and the Peck Mine. Well, that's the Oroville.
That's
but
the
I don't.
Oroville.
Are you sure? Okay, never mind. That looks like the Peck to me, but that may be the Oroville. You're probably right.
Well, I think that's what I was told, but I wouldn't know for sure. But I think that's the road that goes down. Scary road that goes down there.
Yep. Okay, I know which way it's taken from now. Okay. Very good. Yeah, there's a lot of history in when Brian was working for Sam and Mike up at the restaurant. Mike would always go say, "Talk to him. Go talk to him."
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's interesting stuff.
Well, when I was a little boy, as soon as I could stand up on the seat of the truck going up to Towers Mountain, my grandpa was a engineer on the Santa Fe, and he knew a lot of the engineers that ran this railroad. And they're the ones that told him about the place in the
Okay.
1920s.
For heaven's sakes.
So I used to stand in the seat of the truck and Grandpa would tell me every move of the throttle, every move of the air brakes, everything, exactly how to run the locomotive all the way up the mountain.
That had to be exciting.
Well,
When you were a little boy? Yeah. It would be for me now.
yeah, very nice. Yeah, you've come a long way since the first time that Linda Elliott showed me, and she was down here working. Sergeant Linda.
Yep. I know, I miss Linda. She's a nice girl.
She is wonderful. She was my FTO in the sheriff's office, and I worked for her in 2 different facilities.
Okay. I haven't heard from her in a long, long time. She used to play bunco with us.
She still comes up to my place up in Prescott. We visit, and comes up and helps me out. So.
Good. That's good. Yeah.
So anyway, that's my background on the railroad. I've always loved it. I was raised in a railroad family, and from the time I could stand up, I used to ride with my grandpa across the desert on the big Southern Pacific daylights. And that's all he did during the war was run the big passenger trains from Fort Bliss to Texas. So he had thousands of hours at the throttle of those big locomotives. Yep.
It was a great job then. It would still be.
Yep. So one of the construction guys, the largest construction company in Prescott is Geo Earth, and it's run by one of the Orrs, Wyatt Orr and his grandpa, Wynn, and he is a Southern Pacific Railroad daylight nut. Absolutely. So we get along just fine.
That's good.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we could sit down out here and you can tell us about your childhood here.
Pardon?
Weren't you a child, did you live up here when you were growing up?
Well, I stayed up here with the summers from my grandparents a lot.
Okay,
At least a couple of months in the summertime. Until I was 15 and I went to work as a cowboy in Strawberry and Payson and Pine. I
okay.
worked for Dean Hughes and the Ellsworths and cowboyed in the summertime up there. And I did that till I was 18 and then I worked here.
Okay.
And the ranger here at the time was Earl Bland, an ex-Marine. And if you heard him and my dad talk, they were in the same foxhole in Guadalcanal and Bougainville together.
Really?
So they really got along good. So the first job I got was Towers Mountain Lookout Tower. That's
very
where they
cool.
put me. When I was 18, I worked there.
Did you?
2 days on towers and 2 days in horse thief and 2 days on patrol. 6 days a week. So that's where I started when I was 18.
So did you know Tony Nelson back then? Like,
Oh yeah,
I mean, like you guys were both on the towers around the same time?
Oh, Tony taught me how to play the guitar in the tower. My grandma always cooked cookies for him and always had him down for dinner before he went home.
Oh,
And my family knew Tony and his family and his mom and dad for a long time. For the 1920s sometime.
wow.
So.
It's fun to imagine you and Tony as teenagers. It kind of is. I bet you could tell some stories.
I bet.
And he and I went to a couple of fires together, usually on the 4th of July weekend because everybody wanted to go to the rodeo. Tony wanted to play in the bar, and I didn't care anything about that so we were the only smoke chasers in Crown King.
Okay.
So we got all the good fires. So,
Wow.
but I love Tony. The first thing he did, there'd be on Lane Mountain, there was a big, huge snag burning, and we had 3 or 4 inches of rain, so there was no hurry, but they sent us over there. And the first thing Tony does is get the coals. And he builds a big piles of coal, and then he gets his coffee pot out and puts it on. That's the first order of business.
Really? No
That's
dummy
funny.
there. You knew.
That's funny. Well, if you want to sit out on the porch, we can get a little more stories. I definitely want to capture some stories
Yes.
while you're here, Doug. By the way, this is Doug Collup, Douglas Collup, and you lived in Crown King a lot when you were a kid, and then as a young adult, it sounds like you lived
Worked here
here.
5 summers
Worked here 5 summers. Yeah.
as a college, referral from college, as a forestry student. And
Yeah.
my other real background is my Uncle Hayes, which is my grandpa's brother. He actually was a mucker in the Crown King mine. He actually worked in the Crown King mine.
Really?
Yeah.
What's a mucker do?
Mucks out the mud so that cars can go across the little railroad track with the water running and the mud all the time.
Oh, interesting.
So that's what he did.
All right, well, let's go outside.
Okay, we'll go sit outside and you can,
So I got a lot of good stories from Uncle Hayes. So
I bet.
looks like we need about 25 gallons of deck paint.
You're not kidding.
They're definitely.
Let's move that a little bit. Let's
Trying to
move.
think if we can get closer over
Let's
there.
just move to the other table because it'll be in the shade longer.
Yeah,
Okay.
untie some tape.
Yeah. All right.
Cut it.